Hello everyone, I'm your hostess Zmarie here with Heart4art Live. Today we're going to be continuing our drawing from last time, and that was our interpretation of God's creation. So let's get started. Alright guys, last time we started drawing our interpretation of God's creation. Today we're going to be continuing with our drawing where we left off and doing shading and things like that. So let's jump on over to our sketch pad and let's get started. Alright, so we're going to begin our shading process. We got our basic outline the last time. So now we're going to focus on mainly shading, okay? So if you still have your reference near you, then now is a good time to start shading, okay? So now first, before we do any dark shading or anything like that, I see a few more things such as different parts of the island that has different dots and circles, which will help some parts represent lighter than the next. So this part right here, it's kind of like a slight triangle kind of deal right there. All right, so now we can see that some parts are lighter than the next. So if we come about right in this area, just give yourself like a rough shade. And like I said on one of the other episodes, do not use your finger to shade. If you have something like a Q-tip or even a clean makeup brush, like a blush brush or anything like that, you can actually use that to help shade, okay? So right here, see a few lines, a few dark lines right here by the hand, right there. And a line here connecting to the island, right there. And I'm just gonna keep shading it darker. Since this whole part over here is actually darker than the rest. It just gives it a slight shadow. So all of this right here, we're gonna make it dark shade. And try your best not to shade over the finger, just so you don't have to go back and draw it again. And if we need this part to be a little darker, like if it's starting to merge too much with the other light colors, then we'll just get ourselves a darker pencil. But right now we're just gonna use the same pencil that I actually drew my outline with. I'm just gonna use that right now starting off, okay? So all of this up till about the edge of the island, all under here, we're gonna make it dark. And as you can see, some parts are getting lighter than the rest, so you just flip your pencil over and keep shading. I'm trying to avoid coloring over my outline just so I won't have to go back and redraw those parts, which I probably still will go back and, just make the outline a little sharper. Right? So all of this, we're gonna make it dark. All of this right here. And we're gonna stop there, right there. Get it as dark as we can. And as close to the island and all of that as we possibly can, all right? Now we're gonna come right here beside it and we're gonna shade a little lighter. Just slightly brush your pencil up till about right there. Just a slight, kind of brisk draw right here. Over here, then come right beside it in this area and make this part dark. And this is just simply going to give us different tones, different shades, and all of that, just so it doesn't look like a flat drawing. All right, so that right there. Get as dark as we can. And then come to this area right here. And this part can be kind of tricky because it's slight of a dark and light mix. So don't press down too hard on your pencil. It is still give it like a slight brush to it right there. All right, now come down, make this part a little darker. And then go down, we're getting kind of to the island part. Make the edges of the island dark. Very edges. Then we're gonna make the inside lighter. Kind of outline your island so it doesn't get hidden. You can see as we're shading, it's getting a bit hidden. All right, now come all right here and just give it a slight shade. Anything that's too dark, you can go back with what you're gonna be using to shade. Like anything like a Q-tip or anything like that, you can go back and use that to make it lighter. So I'm just gonna give it a basic, simple shade here. And we can see some of the corners are darker than the next. Like this corner, for instance, we can see it's a little darker. So we're just gonna hard draw right here. Like that, got that? Now we're gonna come here to this outline down here and make that part darker. Got it? Now come up here. We're gonna outline this part a little darker and stop. Got it right there, all right? We got a little line coming up in here. And we're gonna just add that little line and leave that just like that. And we're gonna come again to this side of the island and just darken it as much as we can. Because we don't wanna lose that outline. So darken, 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 there we go. All right, I'm gonna come to here. I'm gonna just go back and darken a few lines that got hidden when we started shading. We don't wanna darken too many of them so it doesn't look like a flat drawing. So just outline all of these lines up top and all of these lines around this little circle right here. Right there. Okay, now come up here to this area and give this part a slight light shade. Not too dark. And on the left side right here, make this side darker. So push down on your pencil just a little bit. Not too much though. Like that. And then we're just gonna merge both of them by kind of giving it an in-between shade. Now stop right there. Now you see this part right here by the earth, it looks a little dark. So just take your pencil, just darken this side just a little bit. Right there, just a little corner. Now what we're gonna do is you see these little islands and things like that, little details, that's what we're gonna shade next. So this one is darker. These two are darker than this one. So just slightly make it dark and make this one dark. And then come here to this one and just give it a slight brisk shade. Like that, got it? Now come up here, but before we go up here, you see this middle island, the line is starting to disappear. So we're gonna try and redraw that, just so we don't lose our lines, because that all helps it make it look more realistic. So I'm just going back and tracing a few of my lines, like that. Now come up top to this island right here, and I can see where my island was a little bit off from the reference drawing, so I'm gonna try and fix that a little bit before I shade it. Come in here. Make it look more like an island. Okay? Now go inside and start shading. All of this in here. We're just giving it like an in-between shade, not too dark or not too light, okay? Now come to the one underneath. Gonna outline it. Outline top and shade. Like that. Now come to your top up here. You see this little island? This island up here is darker than probably almost any of them on the depiction of the world right here. So up here is gonna be the darkest one. So come here and shade dark. And you do that by simply pushing down on your pencil. And right now I'm actually using an HB pencil. And that just kind of gives me like an in-between shade of, you know, light and dark. So that's why I chose this pencil. But if we need to go back and darken any lines, then we would do so using a darker pencil. Like that. All right, now come over here to your right. And this top island up here, this is where we're gonna start shading this part up here. So this one right here is darker than all of these. So we're gonna make this island darker than all of the other ones. We still don't want to push down too hard, so when you go back to shade, it will be easy to actually shade it, and it won't be, you know, too hard for you to even mix them because you push down too hard. So, and I'm just trying to keep that outline as I go, so I do not lose that. All right. Now we're going to go to this area over here and do the same thing. Outline as much as you can. And we're going to make this part, like this line right here, you're going to give it just this little corner. Going to make it dark. Just to give it a little shadow effect. Then you're going to come right here and just give it a light shade all in here. And if you go outside of the lines, that's okay, because you can always go back and erase the outside. So I'm just giving it a basic shade, not pushing down too hard, so it'll be easy to shade when I use my Q-tip or anything like that. All of this, we're just gonna shade it like a light shade. All right, guys, so we're gonna pause right there and we're gonna come back right after this short break. So don't put up your pencils or your sketch pads or anything like that. Keep your erasers, all that out, because we're gonna continue our drawing right after this break, all right? We'll be right back.
Tired of your bland wardrobe? Well, spice things up with the Wood Prosper's customizable t-shirts in 3 easy steps. First, go to zmakeapp.com and click the Wood Prosper logo. Then select Create Your Own, and lastly, import your own design or use the ones we pre-made for you. You can even customize mugs, hats, jackets, and so much more. So head on over to zmakeapp.com and click on Wood Prosper today and get your designs noticed.
All right, guys, my name is Zmarie here with Heart4art Live. We're going to continue where we left off before the break. Let's continue our drawing, all right? Let's jump back on over to our sketch pad. All right, now I'm going to come over here to my left. Just going to continue shading kind of where we left off here on the left. And I'm going to just make this part like a slight shade. Just go left to right with your pencil. And that kind of gives us a basic outline. And any part that we see is darker than the rest, we can always go back and do that once we start shading. All right? Now we can see that the hands have their own kind of shade. So we see right here on all the nails, kind of at the bottom and outline of the nails, the line is darker. So I'm gonna outline my nails and make them darker. And give it a little shade underneath it, while making sure my finger doesn't disappear while shading. Like that. And then we're gonna shade the finger. Just giving it a slight light shade, like that. And this little corner finger right here, or the part of the hand, slightly shading that. Now come on down and give your hand an outline again, making sure it doesn't disappear. Put the line in the hand, right there. And then we're gonna come right here, and we're gonna draw here. Okay, and then hoop the nail. So yeah, right here, so I pretty much just went on and kind of did the same thing how I was saying, go from left to right, and you can pretty much just do that throughout the entire drawing in order to get it, you know, completely shaded from different parts. And like I was saying, make sure that on the parts that you want to do darker, you just press down a little darker. And some parts that you want to do lighter, just don't press down as hard. So as you can see, I have like different shades and shadows, and that's because I actually went back and darkened some of the parts that were actually supposed to be more of a harsh shadow. And then after you've gotten your pencil and all of that, after you've shaded the entire drawing, then that's where you're gonna go back with your shading tool in order to make the lines and everything softer. So I'm gonna get my shading tool here, so we can keep going there. But as you can see, that's just kind of like a rough sketch and a rough shade. So you can do it however you want to, but that's kind of how mine ended up turning out after I did the same left to right shading technique. So that's how you can do that. You can use anything to shade. You can do something as simple as a Q-tip, something like a makeup brush or blush brush or anything like that, just to, you know, make the lines a little softer. So the parts that I want to be lighter, I'm not gonna shade those as strong, but I'm gonna just go back with this, and it just makes it not that harsh looking. so it doesn't look like you used a pencil. You want it to look more like real life. So now you just go back, and the parts that you want darker, just don't take too much shade. And if you make one part lighter that you didn't mean to make light, you can always go back and get your pencil and shade it. Like this. And as you can see, some of the corners looks like a slight shadow. And right here in the middle, where I didn't want it to be like that much going on, I just simply went left to right with my pencil. And just slightly kind of like a brush kind of deal. And then you get your shading tool. And just go back like that, because I didn't really want too much going on in the middle, since that's more so representing like water and all of that. I didn't really want it to merge too much with the land and all of this out here. So. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure I got rid of all those lines. It just helps it, like I said, not be too harsh. Just going back and kind of correcting a few things now. And if you see outside of the lines, if you see that the shade is all out, you can go back and clean it up, but I would suggest that you leave a few of them, because it just makes it kind of look cool to leave a few shaded lines around it, but it does look better if it's clean too. So just kind of go back, and I'm gonna go back and erase some of my shade that I have outside the lines there. But yeah, you pretty much just keep doing it like this, and try your best not to erase. And when I say erase, I mean like shade too hard on the lines that you actually drew, because then it start disappearing and you'll have to redraw them. So you can always go back and darken your lines. There's nothing wrong with that too. So on this side, I'm gonna go back and darken the fingers a little more on the parts that may have gotten erased or shaded over. Okay, like this. Trying to make sure I didn't erase, the major lines that I wanted to keep. So, all right, now I'm gonna go back, get the top of the fingers here. Just simply to re-outline, I guess you could say, the parts that you've already drawn, to make them, make sure they're standing out so they don't just all look like one flat drawing. Okay, you can do that all over here too, where you drew your land and islands. Just simply re-outline them. And if you want to use a darker pencil to do the outline, some people use pen, which I don't suggest, because if you ever want to go back and correct it, pen is permanent, so that's kind of tough to erase. So I would suggest you just use a darker pencil, but I'm simply just using the same pencil that I used when I was drawing, just so that I have a similar shade to it. Now I'm just going back and darkening all my lines. Okay. And this part can be kind of like rough lines, just so it won't be like too perfect. It'll still make it look natural. So. Okay. Now I'm gonna go around and clean up some of the shade that I saw, I kind of shaded outside the lines. Make sure I have this hand outlined well. Okay. Make sure I outline the fingers and everything before I go back and erase. And be careful when you go back to erase so you don't erase your drawing. Okay. So now I'm just going back and cleaning up my drawing a little bit. And sometimes on your paper, it looks like shade around. So if you don't want to lose that, try not to use the eraser, because I actually like how that looks when it looks like it's just pencil kind of everywhere in the background. So I'm gonna leave mine like that. But I'm still trying to clean up around the actual drawing. And all of this just simply helps to make it look more realistic and neater too, so it doesn't end up being messy at the end. And you can actually get like I guess you would say adhesive erasers, but it's basically like a ball eraser that you can actually form to get the corners and all of that, and you won't actually erase your drawing. But or you can just use a regular eraser too. I'm just simply trying to use the corner of my eraser so I don't erase too much. Okay. And of course, if you want to add any more islands or anything in the middle, it's completely up to you. You can do that as well. Because I added words on top of mine, but you know, it's however you want to design it. Okay, trying to make sure I didn't erase too much on the corners. Clean up as much as I can. And on the parts of the nails where I saw it was actually dark, like on the tip of the nail right here, I just got my pencil and darkened it. And then I got my shading tool and just slightly brushed on it, just so it wouldn't look like I just, drew a line on it. And on some of the parts of the hands, if I saw where it looks like, for instance, right here, where it looks like the sun is shining on the fingers and all of that, or the light is on the fingers and all of that, I didn't use pencil at all. So I just left it white. And then once you go back with your shading tool on the part that you want it darker, you get your pencil on the parts that you want darker. And the parts that you want to do like the sun is shining, don't put pencil. And then get your shading tool. Just simply brush only on the part that you want darker. And then you can give it a slight kind of up and down kind of thing, just so it'll kind of merge it together so it won't look like it's two separate, things that you did there. And that's with any of these. So I actually didn't put any pencil on the actual nails of the finger, just so it wouldn't, be like black nails or anything like that. So I just simply didn't put pencil at all on those parts. So on the parts of the fingers that you see where it looks like the light is shining or that part is brighter than the rest, then just don't necessarily put the pencil shading there if you want that particular look. Okay. We're pretty much getting down to just, the correcting part of the drawing before it's completely complete, but this is pretty much the basics to actually drawing this drawing here, what we say our interpretation of God's creation. So this represents God's hands holding the world. And so I just simply put my text there, but that's completely up to you. And always don't forget, sign your drawings, your art, anything like that. Always sign it. And I do suggest you to sign it on the picture, just so, no one can actually erase your name or they can cut it off or anything like that. Because if they try and, take your name off, they would end up cutting into the drawing. So I would suggest you actually draw onto the picture. So it's kind of just a simple tip out there. Okay. So I'm just making sure I have my kind of final little bit before I stop. Making sure, each line is corrected. And like I said, you can make it your own. This is just, how this one ended up turning out. But it's just, make it just, like I say, make it your own. It doesn't have to be exactly like the reference photo, exactly like mine. It's however you want to draw it. Okay. And if you want to, you can actually add color to it. Because I simply just kind of did like a black and white simple shade picture. But if you wanted to add like green where the island is represented, blue where the water is, if you wanted to add color to the hands, you can do that as well. But I just simply did like a simple, basic black and white shade. It's just, a quicker process. But you can always add color. It's completely up to you. So anywhere you want to add color, you can do that. Colored pencils, pastels, anything like that to actually get color. So that all just simply helps. All right. I'm just making sure I didn't erase too much of it. So that's pretty much actually wrapping up that drawing. And if you ever want to go back and re-outline, you can do that. And just remember, if you want to clean it up, don't erase your drawing on, when you're trying to clean it up around here. Don't erase your drawing because you'll have to go back and redraw what you saw I have to do a few times. So, okay. And make sure Everything up here. Just trying to outline the letters a bit more. And I added this up here, so it's, whatever you want to add at the top. Or if you do want to add anything. So it is important to go back and re-outline your work because it just adds a more realistic look to it. And that is best to do that with black, or like a pencil, or you can do it with just try and use the color black to actually outline. It gives it kind of a 3D kind of effect. And if you want to write something, you can add color to the letters if you want to, but that's completely up to you. I just simply added this here at the top. Any other detail that you want to go back and add, you're, of course, more than welcome to add it to your picture. So, this is just like a basic, simple outline drawing of our interpretation of God's creation. So. Alright guys, so we're going to wrap this video up right now, and we're going to continue coming on back and continue to draw even more awesome pictures. So continue to stay tuned every Tuesday, 2 p.m. I have been your hostess, Zmarie, here with Heart4art Live. Make sure you all come on back next Tuesday, okay? Central Standard Time. And I did want to mention to go over to www.smicapp.com. That's SMIC app.com. And click on Would Prosper, and you can actually get your own designs on t-shirts, mugs, sneakers, hoodies, pillows, so much more. So make sure you all go over there and check that out. And don't forget to check out Alabama Biblical Arts Museum. Awesome biblical arts museum, over 150 different multicultural biblical characters. Make sure you all go over there and check that out. And that website is www.abamcenter.com. I have been your hostess, Zmarie, here with Heart4art Live, and I'll see you all next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So come on back, don't miss out, okay?